On the quiet morning of April 19th, 1995, Oklahoma City was just beginning its day. People were walking into offices, holding warm cups of coffee, greeting coworkers with sleepy smiles, completely unaware that in moments, their world would be altered forever. They could not know that the deadliest act of domestic terror in American history before 9/11, one of the most shocking crimes ever carried out on U.S. soil, was already headed toward the heart of their city, driven by a man named Timothy McVeigh. At 9:02 a.m., a massive explosion ripped away the entire north face of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building. The blast shook the ground like an earthquake. Fire tore through concrete, the air filled with dust and confusion. Within seconds, a normal Wednesday morning had transformed into a scene of heartbreak, one that would define a generation and leave a permanent scar on the nation. But before this unimaginable moment, the man responsible was quietly preparing in near invisibility. McVeigh had spent the days leading up to the attack, drifting between cheap motels and rented rooms, places without warmth, without identity. The room he stayed in the night before the bombing was cold and bare, a reflection of how emotionally disconnected he had become. He left that motel without hesitation, driven by a cold, rehearsed focus. Before getting on the road, he made one final stop, buying a pair of earplugs from a small convenience store. He climbed into the rented Ryder truck, its cargo, a deadly homemade bomb, and blended into the morning traffic. Witnesses would later describe him as calm, cautious, average. Nothing about him suggested that he was moments away from committing a horrific act. Shortly before 9 a.m., he arrived in downtown Oklahoma City. Office workers moved through crosswalks. Parents dropped children off at the daycare inside the Murrah Building. Life was ordinary, routine. McVeigh circled the block once, silently studying the scene, the busy sidewalks, the parked cars, the timing. Then he parked the truck directly outside the building's north entrance, as planned. He stepped out and walked away. No one noticed. No one stopped him. He disappeared into the crowd, just another stranger passing by. Moments later, the bomb detonated. Sirens wailed. People screamed names of loved ones. First responders ran toward the devastation without a second thought. The city, in shock, began the long fight to save as many lives as possible. Meanwhile, McVeigh was already driving north in his old Mercury sedan, maintaining the image of a man with a normal day ahead. But destiny intervened. Just 90 minutes after the explosion, a state trooper pulled him over for a missing license plate. McVeigh was polite, calm, cooperative. A hidden handgun led to his arrest. At that moment, no one yet knew that the man in custody was responsible for an attack that had taken 168 lives, including 19 children, and injured more than 600 others. 2 years later, in 1997, McVeigh faced trial. He showed no remorse. He never stepped back from the extremist hatred that had driven him. He was sentenced to death. On June 11th, 2001, at the age of 33, Timothy McVeigh was executed by lethal injection in Indiana. Terry Nichols, his accomplice, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of release. As of 2025, he is 71 years old, still alive, and remains incarcerated. The Murrah Building was damaged so severely by the bombing that it could not be repaired. Today, a museum operates on the site where the Murrah Building once stood. The design of the memorial is highly symbolic. 168 empty chairs represent each life lost, with smaller chairs for the children. A reflecting pool marks the moment of the explosion. Twin gates symbolize the moments before and after the attack, and the survivor tree, an elm that withstood the blast, stands as a symbol of resilience. Terror does not always arrive from far-off places or from enemies across borders. Sometimes it begins silently, inside a person who once seemed completely ordinary. And the most dangerous hatred is not always the kind that screams, but the kind that grows quietly, ignored, and unseen until it is too late.